Yeah.
All right, Gabi, we're going to do what we did in the lost episode. Do you recall that?
Yeah. Yeah. Second run. Let's do it.
You betcha. So, can you guys do a show on your background? So, this isn't going to be the whole show, it's just going to be a segment. What sports have you played throughout your life? When did you start arm wrestling? Why did you start arm wrestling? Did you ever do things like powerlifting or weightlifting competitively? Do you have a family and a full time job? If so, how do you schedule in training? When and why did Gabi start his troll personality? Do you have other hobbies and interests? Seems like Gabi might be a bit of a cinephile, and that would be the end of it. So take it away, man. You go first, and if you want to answer in pieces, I'll keep that question up in front of me so I can remind you if you need a
Yeah.
little reminder.
Yeah. From the ages from about 4 years old till about 12, 13, 14, I spent most of the time in the hospital, had leg issues, had health issues. And when I finally got out and physiotherapy and doctors recommended I get in the gym and build muscle mass, my body responded quite well. And it just basically, I was always ultra competitive. I just wanted to get out there and do things. So I did. In high school, I was an excellent wrestler. I did that for 2 years. Greco-Roman wrestling. Went to nationals a couple of times. Didn't finish top three, but won my provincials a couple of times. 118-pound weight class, small guy. As high school ended, I started gaining weight. I got up to about 150, 160. Out of high school, started doing a lot of weightlifting. My body just always really reacted well to weightlifting. Got up to 220, 225 pounds. I showed you the picture. I've shown some people the pictures. It's out there. Not super lean or athletic, but I was up there. I was big. And and then I guess around 26, 27, I just started having knee and back problems. It was too much weight for my frame. Went into, just decided to do a complete 180 and started losing weight and started running. I always gravitated towards individual skills only because early in high school I did play some team sports, but I didn't like the fact that I can put out a wicked effort and the team can lose.
Mm.
I did not love that, nor I can have a piss poor effort and our team could win and we can get accolades. I didn't like that. I always like to be in control of my destiny, and I love being completely accountable when I fail. So it just seemed individual sports were the way for me to go. So then I became a runner. And what I loved about running, much like other individual sports, is you can do a lot on just sheer willpower. And I wasn't built to be a great runner. I was short, but I won races and I did well just on sheer. I had a motor that can rev high, and I didn't give up. But then again, here I am. I was 20 in 2004. I was 29, sitting at home, and I had an epiphany. I said, I can never be the greatest runner on earth. If I'm going to start going into my 30s, focusing on a sport where I could potentially be the best I can be great, like on a world level, I got to pick a different sport. And I figured, well, I never lost an arm wrestling match, even in high school, being 120 pounds going against football players. None of them at the lunchroom in the cafeteria. No one could budge my arm. They couldn't even budge it off center, one after the other. So I said, maybe there's something here. I went on the Google machine for the first time in my life. Mike Gould Classic 2004 popped up in Oshawa, Ontario. 2 weeks after that, was too nervous. Wanted to leave the morning of. Too nervous, couldn't sleep. Drove through the night, not knowing what the fuck I was going to do. Not expecting, not knowing what to expect. I think I took third in the amateur and got blown away in the pro. But met Mark Zulap, Earl Wilson, Mike Gould, people that are so intimidating to look at. But once you talk to them, you realize great bunch of guys. The sport is fueled by good human beings looking to support other people. So just kind of fell in love with the sport, and that's how it started. So yeah, there was a little bit of weightlifting in there. I had a 460 bench at one point when I was at my heaviest. I was never good at deadlifting. I didn't have a great back. My squatting was okay, but I wasn't a big leg guy. I didn't like going in and training legs. I wanted cheat curl competition. I want as a casual competition for guys at the gym for a little bit of money on an easy curl bar. And I used to love doing chain dips, parallel bar dips with weight chained around my waist. I tried to, all those numbers went up quite high. But anyway, arm wrestling ended up where I ended up, and I got no complaints. In terms of training and my schedule, I'm fairly fortunate. For 15 years, I had a really easy job as a hotel security manager, where they allowed me to build my own gym downstairs. So basically, I had all day to train. My job wasn't physically fatiguing, so it was super easy. I trained 2-3 hours a day. It's all good. About 7 months ago, I got a new job where it's physically demanding, it's intellectually demanding. So it's much more challenging for me right now to get my trainings in. For example, sometimes I walk between 10 and 14 kilometers at night at work, just doing stuff. So I can't do legs during the week. So legs are pretty much relegated to the weekends. Trolling started in 2009. Got on Facebook one night, 6 months after I opened up a Facebook account. Bored out of my tree, nothing good on TV. My girlfriend at the time was out. I figured, what can I do to spawn a little bit of stimulation and entertainment? Well, I just went from post to post with the challenge of initiating or provoking a reaction. And that's what I did. And then I remember John Milne calling me up about an hour later and saying, man, I've just shut off everything else tonight. I'm just following you on Facebook and watching how people react. Then I realized, shit, there's something to this. The great thing about trolling is people think it's just me sitting back trying to piss people off and getting my rocks off on pissing people off. Really, it's not. There's a science and an art behind trolling, and basically the human psyche is like a foundation. The stronger that foundation, the harder it is to rattle it. And I find if you can rattle somebody, and I don't mean by threatening them or something abrasive, but if you can just make a neutral, bold comment or statement, and you can rattle their cage, basically what you're doing is proving that their foundation is not as secure as they might think it is. So basically, trolling could be looked at as a lot of ways, but I look at trolling as I'm giving a psychological analysis to that person, letting them know where their foundation is weak and where I can find the holes in the foundation, so to speak. I'm really fucking good at it. So as the years go by, it evolves. And I'm known as a troll, but there's a means behind it. There's a science and an art behind trolling. Luckily, I don't ever care what other people think of me, so that allows me to have free range on my trolling.
So you consider yourself to be an artist?
Trolling, there's a science behind trolling. There is a science and art behind trolling. There is. If you believe fully in something with complete conviction and certainty, you are immune to a troll. You are immune to a troll. The troll cannot get under your skin. The troll cannot do anything except maybe stimulate a small amount of cascading self-reflection. Other than that, he can't really get under your skin. When I can get under someone's skin, the more I can get under someone's skin, it tells me they do not fully have conviction and full belief in the material that we're talking about. It's hypersensitivity. On another note, I'm an introvert. I don't like really hanging out with people. The older I get, the less I want to hang out with people, and the more I want to hang around with animals. So being a troll, what it does, and I'm not even on Facebook, being a troll at an arm wrestling practice, or being a troll at a party, what the trolling does is it filters out the people I want in my life and the people I don't want in my life. Hypersensitive people have no use in my world. I have no respect for hypersensitivity. There's so much shit, pain, war in this world that if someone's words can cause you a sleepless night rest or cause you heartache, you need to tighten up. You're not going to make it in this world. So I figure, and I don't really want people like that around me because I'd have to watch my tongue. So basically trolling allows to keep my circle of friends, although very small, it keeps that circle tight. Love movies, always love movies. Again, being an introvert, my favorite thing growing up was going to a movie theater alone, watching a movie. I tend to go towards psychological thrillers, dark, eerie stuff, horror movies, stuff like that. I'm all about being stimulated. So either I want to laugh hysterically at like a comedy, or I want to be kind of scared and I want to watch some dark ass horror movie. So it seems like those are the two genres that I gravitate the most towards. And sometimes I wait 4 or 5 months to watch a movie, and I almost count the days until it comes out in theaters. And I'm a huge movie fan. Don't know what else is left. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've pretty much covered everything.
Are you on any do not fly lists?
No. Although, no.
You have to think about it.
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I'll go quick. A show on your background. What sports have you played throughout your life? Well, let me see. I did not do much of any sports when I was a kid. I did not play team sports. I did a little bit of basketball in high school, junior high. Wasn't super into it. Started lifting weights at a very early age, probably as a child, actually, messing around with weights. And I was always obsessed with like Hulk Hogan and Lou Ferrigno and the Incredible Hulk on TV. And I always, they were always my favorite superheroes, was Superman and the Hulk, because they were super strong. So I started dabbling around in that and training all through high school. Actually, when I was 16 years old, when everyone else was out partying, I started training, lifting weights instead of drinking, and doing all the stuff that teenagers do. So I used to go to parties, but it would not be nearly as much as my friends. And when I was 18 years old, I started bouncing at a nightclub because I get to hang out there, get paid to do it, and I wasn't expected to drink. Always was weightlifting and trying to do something. Thought about entering bodybuilding competitions at one point, but the first thing that came along was arm wrestling in 1997, and I entered my first tournament in 1997 and I won. Local event put on by Miles Wilco. I only pulled right arm. A month later, I went back for the big finale, ended up pulling both arms and won my 2 cases of Labatt's Light. And a couple months later, I went to the Nationals in Kelowna, BC, and got my ass kicked. I pulled Mike Gould, first match, both arms. Did not have anything for him. Loaded with 100% of what I had, and he kind of smiled at me and just pinned me. But the rest is history as far as arm wrestling goes. 1999, I won my first provincials. 2001, I won my first nationals. 2002, I won my first worlds. And I won 3 WAF titles, 21 CAWF national titles, and a couple of World Police and Fire Games gold medals throughout the years, lots of pro ones. But I also started doing strongman in 1997. I ended up winning the first organized, from what I know to be, the first organized strongman competition in all of Canada was 1997 in Portage Prairie, Manitoba, and I won that. Based on that, I was invited in 1999 by Hugo Girard to come to Quebec and compete in the first ever Canada Strongest Man competition. And I was doing okay. I was about halfway in the pack after half the events, and I hurt my back, and I had to pull out of the whole thing. Took a few years off of that, kept arm wrestling, ended up going back. I won Manitoba's Strongest Man in 2004 and placed top 3 at the Western Canadians until I had a very similar incident. I ended up 4th at the end of the day at the Western Canadians. And a year later, I was at my absolute strongest, and I had an incident where there was some untested equipment, and it sent me rocketing into the ground during a farmer's walk competition. Ooh. Where I was actually ahead of Dave Osland, who was at World's Strongest Man that year, and I was beating him, and I tripped on an untested course where there was some uneven pavement, and I hung it up right then and there because I got a concussion. I hit the pavement so hard.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then I went on, took some time off. I was just doing some arm wrestling, started doing powerlifting, just bench press only meets. And I broke the Manitoba bench press record in my weight class on 3 separate occasions, and currently hold a retired weight class record of 550 with a single ply shirt, and was almost the first Manitoban to bench press over 600 pounds. I did 605, almost the full lockout, and then it was Trevor Winfield and myself racing for that, and he got it a month later, so I missed my opportunity there. But bench press was fun, and a little bit of mixed martial arts. I fought once at Ultimate Cage Wars, but I trained for that, and I cornered a lot of guys for that for a number of years. That is my sporting history. Now, family and full-time job, yeah, I am on, I've got 2 daughters with my first wife, and my current wife, only married for a short amount of time, but super happy. Full-time job is I spent 18 years in corrections, left that, entered real estate, been in real estate for just over 3 years, and also a city councilor. I've been 9 years as a municipal politician on city council for the city of Portage Prairie, and I work also at a residential addiction center for youth. So that's my professional career and family life. Hobbies and interests, love movies, do all kinds of stuff, love traveling the world. Arm wrestling has allowed me to do a lot of that. And when did we first meet? It would have been probably
we
nationals.
first met 2005 Quebec St. Foy was my first nationals, and I remember there were a lot of names there that there was Perry Broom at the time was a huge name coming from out east. Mike Gould, of course, but I remember you were larger than life because you had, your background was not just arm wrestling related. And I remember meeting you for the first time. I don't think I walked up to you. But I remember the first conversation we have, and I don't think we actually started talking till Tokyo later on that year when we went to Worlds together. But I remember talking to you about a little bit of your background. I remember you mentioning how Hulk Hogan was a big part of it and stuff like that. How you looked up to him. I always remember that. But you were always kind of larger than life. But we first met in 2005 in Quebec St. Foy.
Yeah. And went on to the Worlds in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. So, no questions rolling in about that particularly. But, Derek Smith, this is an interesting question. When it comes to arm wrestling, what weight and body fat percentage do you guys feel it begins to be counterproductive? I know mass helps with strength, but to what end for our sport? Love to hear your opinion.
Jesus, that's a good question. The more, when you start having your body fat percentage goes up past an unhealthy level, it starts touching with affecting your recovery time, your general health, possible reaction time. So I mean, super heavyweights, it's an open class, but someone who's 280 at 15% body fat, or someone that's 280 at, or even 280 at fucking 45% body fat, in terms of stamina, recovery, well-being, closer you can get to the table. I mean, if you have a big gut, you're kind of outside of the table. So I would say it is a factor, and just general health. But if you want to talk specifically arm wrestling, I would say once you start going over the 25-27% body fat mark, it starts impeding on your recovery, your ability to withstand a prolonged match. And of course, just toxins raise. There's more toxins in your body. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens when your body has to deal with high fat levels. What's optimal? It's hard to say what's optimal from one person to another. I know you don't want to be super lean. You see people that make these drastic weight cuts and show up, 7-8% because they just lost 15-20 pounds. That opens you up to another spectrum of injuries and problems as well. So just like any other sport, I think you want to be in with a good, safe, average range. The advantage of being in weight class is that it's conceivable that if you're really lean and fit, you could have more mass, 20-30 pounds more muscle mass on your frame than your counterpart in your respective class, right? If he's fatter, you can both be in a 198 class, but you like RVJ. RVJ can easily has the upper body of a 220 pound, 240 pound man and get into a 198 class. Opposed to another guy who would be in the same weight class with a lot less muscle mass because he's got more fat. So,
yeah, I have a lot of experience with this because I'm one of the few guys that have gone from super heavyweight down to a lighter weight class at one point in my career.
Have you?
I have. I actually pulled at the Nationals in 2013 in Timmins.
Yeah.
And I went when I did the Visalis thing, the cancer shakes that you were asking me about, trolling me on one of the message boards. But we did, I went from 388 pounds down to under 242 for the Nationals, and I felt like shit. I still won. I won the left arm because my left was just more proficient than anyone else's there. And it was me and Matt Mask on the podium, and I looked small compared to the rest of the class. I lost to Yannick with the right arm, and I didn't even place, and I felt like crap. But I was super lean. And to say I felt like crap, maybe that's a stretch. I felt not strong, and I did it for various reasons. One of them was to go skydiving. But as I gained weight back, And I'm going to roll a second question into this because somebody asked the question. Let me find it here. Sorry, guys. How did you get so huge for your match with Jerry was the question. And I'm going to answer that with this question. I got to a point where I was so big and, I wasn't lean. When I pulled Jerry, I was 380 pounds. And there's a tipping point where you just, and I don't think it comes in body fat percentages. I think it's different with every individual. But when I pulled Jerry, I was at the point where I felt like unhealthy. And I was big. I had more fat on me. I had more muscle on me, but I also had way more fat on me. I was training and I was eating a ton, trying to get as big and strong as possible. I got to the point where I was big and strong, but I felt like shit. I walked to the event and I was out of breath. My circulation was bad. My inflammation was off the charts. And I just didn't feel good. I think if I'd have pulled Jerry at 350 pounds, I probably would have done better against him. How did I get that big? Calories, man. The training, the prayers, and the vitamins, but tons of shit calories. There is going to be a tipping point where mass, fat, does not, it's just unhealthy for you, and you're taking your health into your own hands. I don't know how it's going to relate to strength. There is some comments, I think, that from Levan at 400 to John at 240 with the same strength on the table, this question irks me. This is Derek again. Evan Burgoyne says at 280, I get my shoulder behind. I can't get my shoulder behind my arm for a good defensive hook. At 240 is much stronger. So we're talking about mechanics now, how you can get so fat that you, or how even gaining muscle mass that your biomechanics change. I don't know if you can put a measurable on there for percentage. I think it's different for everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought Devin looked stronger at 225 than he looks at 250.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you look at the late Cleve Dean, he had such a dominant hand. He was so strong everywhere that it really didn't make a difference. But he was so big that he rarely was able to use his legs to arm wrestle because his gut would prevent him from putting his legs underneath the table and prying back. So at a certain degree, if you were going to design a super heavyweight, what would he look like? Well, he wouldn't have 42% body fat. He would be fairly lean. And like you made a great point with inflammation. When your body's in duress because it's dealing with a lot of fat, inflammation is increased. And of course, to get fat, it's generally synonymous with poor diets. And poor diets are catalysts for chronic inflammation. I can remember, and also when it comes to weight arm wrestling, it's if you sit around at 300 pounds all year round, and all of a sudden you decide a month out or 3 weeks out to a tournament, you're going to put on 30 pounds. That weight does not translate. The weight that sits on you for a year and you can train with that weight, that can translate only because more weight, more mass, more, you can move more weight. The more weight you can move, the more impact it has on your muscles and tendons. So weight that sits on you for a prolonged period of time can have a significant advantage in terms of gaining strength. But weight that you put on, bloated weight in the last couple of weeks or even a couple of days before a tournament, that has no advantage. If anything, it detracts from your performance.
Yeah. And Derek, if you're interested, go check out the Vertical Diet by Stan Efferding. It's what all the strongmen are doing now. Brian Shaw's on it, and you're welcome. Ready to go on to the next question, Gabi?
Yes, sir.
We got a ton. Some of these are hypotheticals, so I'm going to maybe screen out a little bit of it. Okay, hypothetical, and I know you like these ones. 1 year from today, Chris Gabi is to be in a best-of-7 right-handed super match with strict reffing for $1 million, and the loser gets nothing. If Chris is able to spend as much time as he wants training the way he wants with anyone he wants and can gain as much weight as he wants, can Chris beat Crazy George?
He put left-handed match, didn't he? Didn't I hear left-handed? Did I hear left or no?
Obviously right-handed super match. Okay. Right-handed super match.
Yeah, the answer is yes, I do. The answer is yes.
Really?
Yeah.
How would Chris train? How much weight would he gain? And what kind of chance does he think he would have?
Weight wouldn't go up that much because I wouldn't be beating him on sheer torque, and if I tried to, I'd just be hurting myself. You beat him through. First of all, with that much money, I'd probably take a hiatus off of work. There'd be an incredible amount of training on my hand, my riser, my thumb lock, my thumb strength, the pad of my thumb to be able to lock across him. And the key of this, of course, is rigid rules. Rigid rules. That is the key to this whole thing. If it was wall, there's no money alive that can have me confident beating a King's mover with wall rules. Only because everything favors them. The pad depth, all that stuff, the reffing. So the answer is yes. The answer is absolutely. It's not that complicated, and it's not about strength or torque. It's about adjusting quick, and the most important thing would be the rules.
Yeah, good answer. Oh, David Lopez says, Ryan, what's your body fat at now? I don't know. I don't measure that stuff. Like, I go by how I feel. Yeah, I'm 360 pounds.
Someone asked a question last week or the week before about would I invite or encourage a super match versus Jeff Hale left, and the answer is absolutely I would. He beat me in wall in 2014 when I went left-handed, and it was my first window into wall, and I'm a guy that grips low and grips hard with my back fingers and loads into it to stop a match. I couldn't do any of this with wall, and I got top rolled, and I rarely get top rolled. He was able to roll me. On the practice table afterwards, I pulled many guys, and I had very little problem with them, although that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But to answer the question, wall or any other rules, I would definitely. There's no one under 165 that I wouldn't pull for money. In fact, I was talking to a couple of friends the other day, and I said, "Who's one of the few lightweights out there that have beat both Sam Harris and Tony Katowski in a cash tournament?" I have, albeit left arm. So I mean, my left arm under 165, it's almost like I almost don't fear anyone in North America. Doesn't mean I can't get beat. It's just I like my chances. It's a strong arm.
All right. What kind of supplements do you use in your arm wrestling regime, such as creatine, fish oil, beta-alanine, etc.?
Mm-hmm. Fish oils and stuff like that, I'm pretty much vegetarian, so I don't play around with that too much stuff. And for me, when it comes to inflammation and joint health, it revolves around the acidity/alkalinity of my diet. So I really don't worry about supplements for my joints, because if I'm eating clean, my joints never have a problem. As soon as I start touching processed shit food, non-whole foods, I can feel it through my elbows right away. Supplements, I think creatine, I don't care if you're an arm wrestler or an accountant, like creatine, you should be getting 5 grams of creatine in your diet, in your diet every day. Especially for me, that someone like me who doesn't consume meat, creatine's massive. Creatine's super important because I can't get it in a meat source. Usually you can get fractions of creatine in beef, in red meat. I don't get that. So for me, supplementing with creatine is huge. I used to do, glutamine, arginine, fish oil. I used to do all that shit. And the money you can spend on that stuff is ridiculous. And at the end of the day, I think it does more anecdotal help than anything else. So yeah, for me, creatine's big. Other than that, it's just a strong diet and keep healthy and a lot of water.
Well, I subscribe to a thing called the Barbell Box where they send me samples every month, so I'm taking all kinds of different stuff all the time. But the staples are creatine every day and whey protein every day, and it's just right after a workout. That's all I do. Yeah. Otherwise, I try to get a pretty healthy quantity of protein every time I eat. I also do intermittent fasting, which I only eat from
16 hours?
16 hours, yeah. So since then, I've dropped a bunch of weight too. So I stick with white rice as my major source of carbohydrates and a protein, and I try to stick to that. I'm not super strict on it. I'm not at Michael Todd levels of following diets. Otherwise, I'd probably look a little different. But
what does he follow? He's got a gut. What does he follow? Oh, come on.
He's ripped right now, man.
He's super vigilant for 2 months, and then him and his wife go on these pizza fucking chocolate bar kicks for 2 months. Come on,
yeah, but then he comes off of it. So I mean, the guy can. He's a master of manipulating body composition.
And do you think that's healthy long term for the body? Do you think it's ideal to do that to the body?
No, I think it'll probably not be great long term. But I mean, until he starts to feel like it's not
Yeah.
healthy. More power to him, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Here's one for you. Is Ryan Espey the second best left-handed arm wrestler in North America?
No, he's the first.
Oh,
in North
God.
America? I'm thinking Canada. Who would beat you in North America? North America?
Well,
Travis. You're second to Travis.
if you're going to ask me if I can win against Travis, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's probably Travis, but
you can't really answer that. You can't really answer that question objectively because you're going to say yourself. But my answer, being objectively, is I would have you second to Travis, and conceivably you can beat Travis depending on where his level is or where he's at in his training or his motivation. But you can definitely beat him. But if there was $1 million on the line, I have him beating you and you beating pretty much the field. Give or take. I don't know if I can go a full episode without throwing a crazy dramatic hypothetical out there, so I'm going to throw one based on what we talked about earlier on you making 242. I don't know if you remember this, but when you made 242, I was all over you with the body by Vi stuff.
Oh, I remember it.
Now, when you beat Yannick, what year was this?
When I beat Yannick?
No,
Yannick
beat you right-handed.
That was
2011.
13.
Okay, in 2010, Eric Roussin at the Toronto Super Show had an open class type 25-man deal, and in the third round or fourth round, I got Yannick Cuevas, and I beat him with my right arm. So when you lost weight and you lost to Yannick, I make this hypothetical where, and I even said to you, you probably don't remember, but I recall saying to you on either the Canadian board or it must have been the CAWF board. I remember saying to you, at a catch weight at 240, I think Dobby beats Ryan Espey. It's not the most ridiculous statement I've ever made, because you at 240 is such a dramatic cut, and then what you look like at 240. Now, if you can sit at 240 for a full year and train hard, of course, but coming down all off that weight and making 240, I'm not going to actually give you the hypothetical because it's disrespectful to give you the hypothetical if I can beat you if you're at 240. But it just makes a good point on how much it weakened you, especially
100%. I felt good until I got to about 265.
Yeah.
And then I started to basically have to starve myself to get down low enough to get to 240. And I went down there for skydiving, and then I decided, okay, it's 2 weeks to nationals. I will wait, and I will see what I can do here. And I came in 2 pounds under the class.
So you didn't have to lose water? You didn't even have to dehydrate to make 240?
I had the heat on while I was driving I drove to Timmins from Manitoba.
Yeah.
Raymond Cote, he's got a question on here. How do you do, Ryan, against Cody Merritt or Robbie Topi? I lost to Robbie a few years ago when I had just put the weight back on. It was a good match. I think that if I had a chance against him now, it would be much, much different. Cody, I have not... I beat him at WAL finals. It was just on TV here in Canada a little while ago. And Cody and I were in the finals of the Masters class at WAF. We both smoked Melentiev, and Cody actually beat me on fouls earlier in the day, and then I came back off the B side and beat him twice. And I don't think either one of us pinned each other. It was fouls, but I learned something along the way that I was just going to have to sit there with pressure on my left arm and not hit, not do anything, and just contain him. And I did that. He jumped around and lost the match. But I have many more wins over Cody than he has over me, but I'm sure we will have many opportunities to pull against each other going forward. Yeah, Yannick in 2010 and Yannick in 2014 are not the same.
No.
Evan Burgoyne says.
Yeah. That's why it was a week. I was trying to get on your schedule, a week hypothetical.
Oh, you were trying to get me going right now?
But before I forget, I do have a question for you, going back to when you won the Worlds in 2012. When I got into the sport, I followed my group. No, 2000, was it 2000? 2002 when you won the Worlds. Was it 2002? Sure. Illinois, right? Illinois?
Springfield, yeah.
Springfield, Illinois, okay. I always tried to follow Greg Boyce only because he was very small hand, very strong puller. What's your record with Greg Boyce right-handed? I don't think he pulled left. So what was your?
I don't think I've ever beat Greg right-handed, and we haven't pulled since that era. Like, it's been that long. And
when you won Worlds in 2002 left, didn't he win right?
he did.
Yeah.
He did. I ended up, I think, we switched spots. So I was fifth on the right and he was fifth on the left.
Okay.
And then
and you
the
never
next
pulled
year,
each other. And you guys never
we pulled each other at 2001 Worlds.
Okay.
That was actually, remember I told you about the controversy of 2001 when I was in the A-side final and ended up in fourth.
Yeah.
Well, I pulled that 5 minutes with the Russian who had beat Greg earlier in the day. And then they immediately called me up to pull against Greg to see who was going into the top three. And Greg was the guy that, like, after pulling a Russian for 5 minutes, I ended up getting beat by Greg. And I had pulled him a couple of times in the early 2000s, and that was about it. And in 2003, we both went back to Worlds. I defended my world title, beating Christian Binney in the final. And Greg got eliminated by, I'm not sure who, it might have been Vovoda.
Wow.
Yeah. And you had Travis and Vovoda in that right-handed class.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. 2003 was in Ottawa. That's right.
Right.
Nice.
And I took 2004 off the Worlds, came back in 2005 and took 2 silvers, and then progressed through the rest of the history of arm wrestling. And finally got back on top of a WAF event in 2018.
You're just hitting your peak, buddy. You're just hitting your peak.
Just getting my stride, man.
That's
just getting my stride.
World, watch the fuck out. Get the fuck out of his way.
We got more.
Yeah.
Top 8. What kind of chance would you give Angrabayev to beat Levan in their super match? Like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, or worse?
Try 1 in 4, 1 in 6. He's not that big of an underdog. He's not that big of an underdog. He's an awesome arm wrestler.
No, I agree. I think he has the tools, technically, to mix that match up. Levan is incredibly strong, but, you know, we'll see. I don't know. Probably 1 out of 1 in 10 at the worst.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a complete mismatch.
No.
I think I've seen more shocking things. If he were to manage to somehow make the upset, it sure would take the luster off the rest of the top 8 tournament, wouldn't it? Okay, man. This is a question.
Never underestimate the better arm wrestler going into a match.
I'm going to get flamed to death for even reading this question. And I don't think I even want to go down the path of answering it, but I will read it because our friend, the constant incel who just cannot get laid, these are all from him, by the way. Okay. This was a couple of weeks ago. He sent me all these. Who would win in a fight between Ryan Espey and Devin Larratt if the only way to lose was to tap out or get knocked out with no rules other than no foreign objects in a ring for $100,000?
Wow.
Depends how long I had to train.
Yeah. Well, you that's a great question because you have the MMA experience. He's a trained.
But Devin does too.
Yeah,
like
it's military trained. I heard a story, many stories with him, but I heard a story back in 2004 or 5 where he was down in California doing something with the military, and he got to an MMA type training facility, and Tito Ortiz was fucking around, and he just destroyed Tito Ortiz, and then some type of they didn't fight. It was just more wrestling.
I would take that fight with Tito.
Yeah. Fuck, I don't know. Like Devin's, if 5 years ago, I think you're in trouble. Now I think there's a fuck. But I mean, that's a great question. I'd have to think about that one. But you have the weight advantage, you have the strength advantage. He might have a tactical advantage. He might have an advantage on fitness, but then you can bridge that with training. That's a great question, man.
It's a tough question because neither one of us are fighters at the moment.
No.
And I respect Devin's training and ability enough to say to not sit here and say that I'm going to kick his ass because I just don't think that's true.
No, you got to respect it.
It's a fun hypothetical at best, and I think that with respect to Devin, I think that he might be the most dangerous man in arm wrestling as far as getting in a fist fight goes. So there you go.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.